We don't have a lot of time, so I'm really going to skip through most of this, and I'm going to focus on two things, really. The one is our RHA Tungsten Project in Zimbabwe, and I'm going to discuss the status of that, the relationship that we have with the government, and I think it's topical, and how we're moving to try and deal with the negotiation to change the previous 49-51% ratio that has made it very difficult to deal with the development of RHA. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on our Zulu Lithium project, which I think is one of the really exciting hard rock spodumene projects that is around today. So if I can skip through, which way does this thing go? That way. I presume you've all read that very quickly, the disclaimer. I'm not going to give you an overview of PREM. It's all available on our website. This presentation is available. We've got a booth as well at H3, I think it is, and all of this is available from that. Just skipping through, I want to come very rapidly to RHA Tungsten Project. RHA, the history is that we first put RHA into production in 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, on an accelerated low capex open pit model. The intention being to develop that into an underground mine where the grade of tungsten was much higher. We've had a lot of difficulties, and I think many people have seen the difficulties that have been associated with the recovery and processing of wolframite. We've learned a huge amount along the way. Premier has made significant investment into this. We have a well-developed and now refined gravity-based processing and recovery plant. And we were, in the latter part of last year, rapidly accelerating development in the underground. Round about the middle of last year, I advised Premier shareholders and our partners in Zimbabwe that if we did not hit a sustained profitable situation by the end of the year, Premier would cease financing the mine under the then and current existing ownership structure. At the end of the year, the mine management advised me that they required a further 2.5 to 3 months of underground development. But I chose rather at that time to stop production at RHA and to deal rather with our ownership and indigenization issues. It's been announced and it's clear in the public domain that Zimbabwe has changed its policy, that tungsten, wolframite, no longer falls under the 51-49% ownership. It is a shareholder issue, as the Minister of Mines has pointed out to me, and he's quite right. It is a matter for the existing shareholders, who are Premier and the Indigenization Economic Empowerment Fund. Premier has made what we think is a very reasonable and very fair proposal, effectively agreeing to capitalize extensive loans that have been associated with the development of the project, registered loans in Zimbabwe, offering to capitalize those and in that way see an adjustment in the equity and ownership situation at Premier. We are confident that we will reach an accord. We are all very concerned, as are our partners in Zimbabwe, that we rapidly reach an agreement. That will then allow us to take RHA into a completely new phase. Just jumping ahead, I mean, these are some photographs of where we are. You can see there's a fully developed mine, plant. We're busy. We have been busy mining as well. Just going to the resource statement, underground, 1.325 million tons at 4.7 kgs per ton. Open pit, a very substantial resource as well. We want to elevate the confidence in those resources. We want to have a very careful look at how we can optimize the throughput on this plant, and we believe that there are some good opportunities to improve what was already an attractive mine, an attractive operation. I'll obviously be back to the market as soon as we get finality on our negotiation with NEEB, and our view is that we should see RHA better funded and back in production, hopefully in the first half of this year still. I want to move on from there into our Zulu Lithium project. Is that, yeah, there we go. Zulu Lithium is a hard rock pegmatite. It's located about 75 kilometers outside of Bulawayo. The initial drilling that we've done has allowed us to describe an initial maiden resource, as you can see there, of just over 20 million tons, grading 1.06%. We've also done some test work. We have continued drilling up until late last year. We're getting in most of those results, and we are busy formulating and designing what will be the next drilling program of about 20,000 meters that we think is required to define this resource sufficient for us to produce a definitive study. But what we do know already coming out of this, and I want to just skip a little bit, I'm going to just jump through to here. This cross-section, this is one of the later boreholes that we have results on, but this cross-section gives you a very good idea of the size of some of the intersections that we are seeing in this. They are quite dramatic in terms of both their grade and in terms of the size of these. I know that those intersections are drill intersections, but projected on dip, angle of the borehole, and so on, there's some very, very significant widths. Now, coming out of that as well is that we are seeing an area of this deposit that is developing into a high-grade core that strongly supports the scoping study that we published fairly recently. That scoping study indicates, and where is the scoping study? Let's just try and find it. Here we go. There's some results of our scoping study. As you can see, if you have a look at that, let's have a look on the carbonate option, on the concentrate option. The significant things on that concentrate option are things like payback, 2 years, IRR, over 60%, peak funding, $38 million. And those are factors that are supported strongly by features in the resource that we are busy drilling and describing at the moment. We have a section of this resource where even if we apply a 0 cutoff grade, we're still looking at an average resource grade of just under 9%. Most of our resource grade numbers have been worked on a 5% cutoff. Now, from a mining perspective, that is giving us a huge amount of confidence that this thing is going to be one of those that should be developed. At the same time, we have done test work, extensive test work done by Dorfner, Enzaplan Dorfner in Germany. And coming out of that test work is, first of all, the fact that this deposit is about 70% spodumene and the balance petalite. There are areas of pure spodumene. Secondly, the recoveries from the spodumene in the spodumene concentrate have been running at as high as 6.5%. Now, that says to us that the quartz infusion effect is much lower in this deposit than we had anticipated. Allied to that, the petalite concentrates are particularly low iron and are attractive, and we are in conversations already with people who have a desire to acquire petalite concentrates, which are not that freely available at the moment. I'm running out of time. I just want to say in summary that these technical features that link into the Zulu Lithium deposit give us a lot of confidence that this is one of those that is going to develop and is going to be mined as we go forward. A lot more work to be done, and I thank you very much.